She was born in a small fishing village where the sea was both cradle and cage. The scent of salt, diesel, and wet wood clung to her skin as naturally as the wind in her hair. Before she could even spell her own name, she could tie knots and gut fish.
Please subscribe to Women Inspired channel.
Her childhood was a rhythm of tides, school in the mornings, helping her father mend nets in the afternoons, falling asleep to the sound of waves slapping the pier. Her father, a lifelong fisherman, with hands cracked like driftwood, loved her but spoke in warnings. "This life is hard," he'd say, "and it's no place for a girl to dream too big." Her mother, quieter but fierce, wanted more for her daughter but didn't know what more could look like. Their world was nets, boats, and tides. By the time she was 12, she was steering their small boat in calm waters. By 14, she was navigating storms with her father, barking instructions over the roar of rain. And yet, when she stood on the breakwater and watched massive cargo ships pass on the horizon, something stirred inside her. Those ships were bigger than any house in her village, and she imagined them like moving cities full of languages and possibilities. She whispered to herself, "One day I'll be on one of those." She never said it aloud at home. Dreams like that were too large to fit in their kitchen. At 16, while her classmates went to dances or hung out at roadside cafes, she took a job unloading fish at the docks. The pay was small, but it gave her proximity to the captains and sailors who came in with their vessels. She listened, always listening, absorbing scraps of nautical terminology, learning which certifications mattered, which schools trained merchant mariners. She saved every coin she could, often hiding it under a loose board in her room. Her father noticed her obsession and tried to pull her back to reality. "Those big ships are for people with money, with connections. We are fishermen, that's our blood." But she couldn't stop. When storms kept the boats ashore, she'd sneak into the tiny library of the local community center, poring over worn-out textbooks on navigation, meteorology, and maritime law. She learned how to plot coordinates, read charts, and calculate tides. Her fingers smelled of fish and ink. By 18, she managed to secure an internship on the small coastal freighter. She was the only woman on board and the youngest. The crew gave her skeptical looks. Some even openly laughed when she said she wanted to be an officer one day. "Deckhand, maybe. Captain? Never," one snorted. But she showed up first and left last, scrubbing decks, carrying ropes thicker than her arms, and memorizing every instrument on the bridge. Life was relentless. Her shifts were long, the pay still barely enough to support herself and send a little back home. Some nights she cried in her bunk, blistered and bone-tired, wondering if she was insane to keep chasing this horizon. But she also felt alive. Out at sea, even in storms, she felt something vast and electric, as if the ocean itself was testing her, shaping her for the life ahead. She sat for the entrance exam to maritime school at 19. The fees were terrifying. She worked double shifts on the docks, tutored younger sailors in navigation, and even repaired fishing nets on the side to cover tuition. She lived frugally, often eating crackers and canned tuna for days. But step by step, certificate by certificate, she advanced. She passed her basic safety training, then her officer of the watch exam, then courses in cargo handling, meteorology, and international maritime law. Still, the prejudice persisted. When she spoke of commanding a cargo ship someday, people smirked. Start small, they said. Maybe a ferry, maybe a tugboat. But she wasn't dismissive. She was determined. She explained humbly, "Small vessels are a start, but my dream is to command ships that cross oceans, big ones, like a Boeing or Airbus of the sea." Not as a boast, but as a vow to her younger self standing on the breakwater. At 22, she became a third officer on a regional cargo ship. A milestone she celebrated alone with a cheap pastry and a call home to her parents. Her father's voice was softer now, pride seeping through the cracks of his doubt. "You're really doing it. I still worry, but I'm proud." She continued climbing the ranks. Each promotion brought new tests, new storms, new leadership challenges. She learned to read not just the sea, but also people, to manage crews from different cultures, to make decisions under pressure, and to stand her ground when older male colleagues tried to undermine her authority. Her confidence grew not from titles, but from surviving situations that would have broken her a few years earlier. A blown engine during a squall, a crew member injury far from shore, a cargo shift threatened stability. Each crisis was another knot in the rope of her resilience. At 27, she passed the grueling exam to qualify as a master mariner, the highest rank in her field. It was one of the toughest tests she had ever faced, covering everything from international shipping routes to advanced meteorology to emergency management. When she got the letter confirming she had passed, she sat on the dock and cried into her hands. Around her, gulls screamed and waves slapped against pylons, but inside it was silence and awe. Her first command came a few months later, a mid-sized cargo ship bound for a 2-week route across the Atlantic. Walking up the gangway in her crisp uniform, gold stripes glinting on her shoulders, she felt the ghosts of every morning she'd spent mending nets, of every night she'd spent studying charts. She placed her hand on the bridge console and whispered, "We made it." As the engines roared and the vessel slipped from the harbor into open water, she looked back toward the shore. Somewhere beyond the horizon was her little village, her aging parents, the younger version of herself standing barefoot on the breakwater. She hoped the girls there could see her ship, could know that it was possible, that the sea that fed them could also free them. She didn't become a captain overnight. She became a captain one tide at a time, one knot at a time, one test at a time. And now, standing on the bridge of her own ship, she wasn't just the captain of cargo. She was the captain of her own destiny. Her story is for anyone told to stay in their place, for anyone whose dreams are laughed at or minimized. It's proof that no tide is too strong when you're steering your own course. Proof that the same ocean that can drown you can also carry you further than you ever imagined. If you've ever stood on the shore of your own life, staring at a horizon you think is unreachable, remember her, the girl who went from mending nets to commanding a ship, the daughter of fishermen who became a captain of the sea. And remember this, the horizon isn't a limit, it's an invitation.
Please subscribe to Women Inspired channel.